It's going to be me and Karan. Both of us are going to talk about UiPath data service. Uh, Here's the agenda for today. Quick overview of data service, new features in 20.10. Then we go through the demo. Then Karan will talk about the licensing structure for data service. And lastly, we'll cover the roadmap. This might be repetitive for some of you because we have talked about data service before as well, but I'm just covering it for people who are new today. What is data service? It's a new service available in UiPath Cloud, which allows you to create rich entities and use modern data types like text, number, files, date, time. It's a simple UX. We will see how to model an entity. It's fully integrated in Studio. You can import them as your rich variable types and then use them for manipulating data within Studio or across processes in Studio. A bunch of useful fields are available by default. So like who modified a record, who created a record when it was done. It's, as I said, integrated in Automation Cloud, has all support of a tenant level service. So if you are using enterprise cloud or customers are using enterprise cloud, they can create multiple tenants and create multiple data service instance for each tenant. And now they can segregate their data if they need to. And the entire permission management for robots is based on modern robots. So there's no need for any kinds of URLs or usernames, passwords inside the robot. Once a robot is connected, it works seamlessly with data service. So everything most of these things we have talked about before as well. So where is data service right now? Uh, we have talked before about data service. So we were in preview in June, July in a private preview where we introduced a bunch of features in the UX. And then we went with public preview in August when we introduced the capability to import it in a first-class manner in Studio, in UiPath Studio, and and it was fully integrated in UiPath Studio. So now we are closer to GA, GA is essentially next Monday, the upcoming Monday. What does GA mean? That it will be available in the Enterprise Cloud and Enterprise Studio as well as we are introducing a bunch of new features. Some of these features will light up today itself. We are enabling them today, although the GA is on Monday, but the features will be enabled today. So there are two new field types available, file, which is equivalent of an attachment, and choice sets, which is equivalent of enum. We'll see both of them later. The next one is we have studio activities for files. We'll see an example of that. We have custom security roles available and entity level permissions available. Karan will cover them in the demo. We now support a Japanese language in our UX, and we have licensing, which will be covered by Karan as well. Just as an internal number for everybody here, in public preview, we are seeing right now roughly 1,500 users use the data service every month. So like in a period of 2 months, we have seen 1,500 users use the service. Let's get into the demo. So let me start with, so here I have my data service instance, a standard data service instance on cloud. I'm using a community version. This can be community or enterprise, doesn't matter. And I have a bunch of entities today. For the first demo, when we'll see the two new field types, I have this employee entity already created, which has name and team in it, a very simple entity right now. And let's go ahead and create a new entity for tracking expenses. So we'll call this entity as expense entity. So I click that entity name, click the create entity button and type the entity name, and the entity is created. Now let's go ahead and add fields to it. First field is, okay, what is the name of the employee who has who is creating this expense? So let's create a field called employee. As I have covered before as well, there are multiple data types. For this one, let's use a relationship data type, and we can select the entity which is related to. In this case, it's related to the employee entity, and it's related to, say, the name field. We can make it required and save it. So the employee entity is created. Let's create one more field, say, what is the expense? So we will call it expense item. We can leave it as text because it will be free from text, whatever expense has been done. The next field we want to do is, okay, what was the amount of expense? We'll call it amount. We'll set it to number. Now, when I set it to number, for every data type, there are different types of more details or additional parameters available. For text, like what is the length? For number, we have a richer set available in terms of maximum, minimum value. So this one I can set, hey, expense cannot be negative. So like I'll set it minimum value to 0 and decimal places of 2 places is good enough. So I can save that. The next one I want to do is create an expense category because my finance department wants to be able to categorize the data easily. Okay, so to do that, I'll use one of a new data types available, which is the choice set data type. So once I select a choice set, I get a list of all the choice sets available inside of my system in my instance. So there's currency, Olympic version, and teams which has been defined, but none of them sound correct. So we want to create a new choice set. So I can click the create new choice set button, and we'll call this choice set as expense category because that's what we are trying to create. And a choice set is just like an enumerator inside of programming concepts or just a list of choices. So we can define a list of choices here, and then only one of those choices can be selected inside of that field. So it helps you restrict things like expense category is a good example. I can create some categories like say travel, meals, hardware, okay, and maybe others. So let's say we keep it simple. We just create 4 choices. So now once I create these 4 choices and I try to create a field again for the expense category. Expense category by selecting choice set and selecting the expense category choice set. I can allow multiple selections as well, but expense category doesn't make sense. So we'll keep a single selection and click save. And we'll see how it behaves later. And the last one is let's create one more field type for the expense image or receipt. So I create one for receipt, make it a file type and click save. So with this, my entity is now created, a rich entity which has all the data I needed, shows relationship, number, text, choice sets, and we could have done other things as well, like yes, no to track whether it was paid or not, and things like that. So now let's move to the data mode, and we will try and add some data quickly. So let's say this expenses for Ankit. Uh, the expense item was maybe, let's say, Figma software. The category, none of these categories match, so we can mark it as others and say the amount was $104.24 and click save. That's it. It's saved, it's done. I could have added a receipt there itself, or I can add a receipt from here where I can click the edit button, click upload, select a file from my machine. Which can we add? Okay, let's add just this one for now and click save. And that's it. My file is now saved inside of this. I can go and change the file, download the file, or remove the file. So like the basic operation on file is available here itself. So this is interesting that we can do these operations from inside of the data service UX itself. But as we have always said, the interesting scenarios happen when we integrate this with UiPath Studio. This studio is connected to my same orchestrator as this instance. And nothing else special has been done on it. So the list of all my entities defined in my data service are shown here. I can expand them to look at their information. I can click this to go and look at their records. I can refresh this so that we start seeing the new expense line item as well here. So see, the expense line item has started showing up here with all the information about it. For the demo today, I'm actually going to use the old example we used always about the Olympics information, wherein we have 2 entities. One is the Olympics entity, where we capture the information about one of the Olympic instances. And the second entity we have is the medals, where we capture information about the medals data for that particular Olympics. Uh, so the Olympics entity has been modified compared to a previous version by adding two fields. One is a logo field, which will capture the actual logo from Wikipedia, and the version field, which is a choice set, which will capture whether it was a summer or a winter Olympics. Okay, let's run it first, quickly see how it behaves, and then we will see how the changes were done. First, let's run the uh, first process, which actually gets the information from Wikipedia and stores it. So let's say we want to store the information for the 2016 Summer Olympics. So I'm going to put just 2016. We directly go to Wikipedia page, scrape the information about the Olympics, then go to the medals page, scrape the information about the medals page, and go and update it in the data service. So that's happened here and it got done. So if we go back here and refresh this page, we should see the 2016 Summer Olympics here. And if we go to the medals information, we should and go to second page, because it's 10 more records, the 2016 Summer Olympics are available here. And naturally for 2016, the logo has been downloaded, the version information, year information, everything is available. How did we do that? This is the same flow which we used in our academic training as well. It's an example on our documentation as well. So it's a very similar I'm using the same base workflow. I modified it slightly. So in the Olympics, uh, get Olympics information workflow. First, because we wanted to support both summer and winter, I added a if condition to detect whether to go to the summer URL or the winter URL in Wikipedia, and accordingly open that particular URL. But once the URL is open, the things are standard. I scrape the name, I scrape the nation information, I scrape the opening and the closing date. The next thing I do is I actually scrape the location of the logo. If you say what is the source for the logo which is shown on Wikipedia, then I actually use a HTTP request activity from our UiPath web activities to download it to my local machine. Once this file is downloaded, later we use this upload file to record field activity, which uses which takes the Olympics ID, which is just created freshly, says which field, the logo field, and takes the file path, the local file path where the file was downloaded, and uploads it to the data service. So this is the kind of activity you can use inside of your process to upload file, and later deletes the local copy of the file because there's no reason to keep it and there's no reason to increase the amount of storage on the local system, right? So you can delete the file once you downloaded it. This is one scenario where we scrape the item from a web page and upload the file. We could have used a select file activity as well here, which is available in Studio in our UI automation, in our system package, and user could have selected a file to upload as well. We'll see an example of when we download the file. So that's one change we have done, which is we have added the ability to download a file and upload it. The other change we have done is we have this version property, right, where we wanted to capture whether the version is winter or summer. Uh, I've written a very simple if condition here that if the name contains summer, then use the summer in enumerator. So see, this is an enumerator directly inside of my studio. So I am able to do Olympics demo.olympic version.summer, which was the name we have given to enumerator. It was imported and it's available as a first class enumerator. And similarly, I am able to do winter if it's not summer. So the one of the advantages of using choice sets is those choices are available as first class enums inside of Studio, and you can use them as first class things. So you can use them inside of switch statement, you can use them inside of if statements and everything else. So it's much easier to use them rather than trying to use it with a relationship. So that's our first place where we actually showed how to upload it. Let's quickly cover the second workflow as well, which downloads this data and then shows it inside of shows it to us. So I'll run it. We'll first go and query all the list of available Olympics to say which particular Olympics I want to see information about. Let's use the one we just imported, the 2016 Summer Olympics, and click OK. So here, one of the steps we are asking is select the folder where you want to download the logo for this. So let me select the downloads folder on my machine. Once I select that, we'll download the file, and we open the file in the default previewer as well. And we are getting the medals information using pagination as we used to do earlier. So if you want to learn more details about it, it's covered in our academic course as well, how to use pagination. By default, we support 1,000 records in a single page, so you do not have to do pagination on less than 1,000 records. But just to show an example here, I had set the page size to be 5, so we got 2 pages of information. And the file we downloaded is also shown up in my photo viewer. I can go to my downloads folder and see this was the file we downloaded, which opened correctly. So how did we change this process? This process is exactly same as academic course and the previous example, except for just 3 steps additional, which is first is a select folder activity, which is activity available in our system package, where I can just select the folder. Once we select the folder where we want to download, I use the download file activity, download file from record file activity, which is available now under the file tab under data service, where I give the particular ID for the record, the field, and the path where I want to download. In the file path, you can both give a folder path, a folder location where it will use the same name as given as we have stored in the service, or you can provide a full path as well, a full file name as well, and it will use the file name you have provided. So both of them are available. And once that is done, I'm just opening that downloaded file in the photo viewer. So that's how this this activity has changed. We have one more activity for delete, if the file, deleting the file from service. It also behaves very similar to the download activity, where you have to give the record ID, the field which you want to delete, and the entity type. And that's it. It will then delete the attached file from the record. So that's it from me in terms of covering choice sets, file, and various activities. In terms of the language, if you click your photo on the nav, you have the Japanese language available now. You can select this, and then the UI will change into Japanese. Naturally, the fields I have defined were defined in English, so they will continue to be in English. If you define them in Japanese or any other language, because we already support all languages inside of the fields and the data, they will continue to work. So that's it from me. I'll hand it off to Karan to cover permissions and licensing.
Thanks, Ankit. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. So here I am logged into my data service tenant as a tenant admin. And you can see I have several entities: account, case, contact, lead, opportunity, and quote. That's because in my business unit, we are trying to use data service as a way to store all customer related information. So it serves as one source of truth. However, for the different roles that need to access this data, I need to make sure that they have access only to the records in those entities that they ought to be accessing, as well as in the right capacity. For example, if I'm a customer service representative, I probably don't need to see any ongoing deals and leads and opportunities, but it might be beneficial for me to know what the account is so I have context. With the new concepts of custom roles and permissions, we are now able to do this within the data service. So let me show you how. To define this customer service role, I begin by going into user management. And in here, I can click the create new role button. I'm able to do this because I have the manage roles permission as an admin. Here I can give the role a name. I'm going to skip over assigning it administrative permissions because I don't need to assign this role those, and I can directly move on to adding entities. When I click this button, I see a list of all the entities within my tenant. I'm going to select case. You'll notice that when I added a case, it automatically added a couple of others, account and contact. That's because my case entity has a field that actually looks up the account as well as the contact records within those particular entities. Now, for a customer service rep, it's probably important for them to be able to create a case. So I'm going to assign that permission, read a case, and edit a case. We won't give them the delete permission. We'll leave that for a higher level role like a customer service manager, for instance. A customer service rep shouldn't be able to create or edit accounts, but they should be able to view an account so they have context. So I think read is the right permission there. Finally, we have contact. Let's say that it is useful for a customer service rep to be able to update contact information, things like contact details, phone numbers, and so on, but perhaps not create them. So in this way, I've been able to specify a custom role that I can assign to my users, as well as specify what specific entities they have access to and in what capacity: create, read, edit, and delete. I can go ahead and save this particular entity as well. Once it's gone ahead and been created, you can go ahead and assign it to users as you usually do. So assigning a role to a user is actually quite straightforward and something that's similar to what you could do before, where you simply add a user through the user management section and edit that particular user and select the one or more roles that you like to assign to them. When you have multiple roles assigned to a user, you basically combine all the permissions that are made available by all those different roles. So let's see what it looks like for the customer service rep who's been assigned this role. So I'm going to switch to a different browser. So here I am logged in as a customer service representative into the same data service tenant. You'll notice that in this case, I only see the three entities: account, case, and contact that I actually provided permissions to. I don't see the leads, opportunities, and quotes because we never granted that role those permissions. If I click into an account, you'll notice that I can see the fields as well as all the data in it once it loads. However, you'll notice that the buttons to create or add new data is disabled. That's because we took away the right to be able to create records in the account entity. Similarly, I can read all of the data. So I can see the name of the account, the lifetime value, the products they've purchased, some relevant information, but I'm unable to edit any of it. However, if I go to the case entity, you'll notice that here I'm able to go ahead and add a new record, or that is create a new case. I can go ahead and edit these records. So for instance, I see that this particular second case has been acknowledged. Maybe I've helped the customer, so I can go ahead and change its status to resolved. What you will notice though, that because we never gave this role the permission to delete cases, I'm unable to go ahead and actually delete that particular record. So this was all about how you can manage access, how you can create custom permission sets using roles, and how you can manage access to data within the entities that you have within your data service tenant. So switching gears a little bit, I'd like to talk a bit about licensing. So the unit of licensing within the data service is something called a data service unit, or a DSU for short. A DSU grants a few things. It grants a certain amount of data storage, file storage, and a certain number of API calls a day. For the community type account, the each DSU grants 100 MB of data storage, 500 MB of file storage, and 1,000 calls a day. However, community accounts only get one data service unit, and that can only be assigned to a single tenant. So phrased differently, community accounts can only get one data service tenant with these limits enforced on them. It's a bit different for the other account types, things like enterprise trial, and so on. Here, a data service unit is granted for every attended, unattended, and studio type license that is there in the account. Each data service unit also grants more for these account types. So for enterprise trial type accounts, each DSU grants you 1 GB of data storage, 5 GB of file storage, and 10,000 API calls a day. Furthermore, these are calculated at the account level, which means that you as an admin can go ahead and distribute the total number of DSUs you have in your account amongst the various data service tenants that you might have based on how you see fit. Let me show you how you do that. So I'm back within my data service. So I'm back within my automation cloud. And as I'm logged in as an admin, I'm going to go to the admin section. In here, I'll see the familiar options of looking at my tenants and licenses. So when that loads, right, perfect. So in here, I see that I have a couple of tenants, but before we go into that, let's take a look at the licenses. So you see that I currently have an enterprise trial type account. And as part of that, I have 5 attended, 5 unattended, and a total of 15 studio type licenses, giving me a total of 25. So if I go into other services, I'll see that the total number of DSUs available for this account is 25. If I go to the home tab and go onto the other services, I can actually see how these how these licenses are allocated. So in here, you see that of the 25 data service units available, I've allocated 10 already, meaning there's 15 available for me to allocate to existing tenants or to any new ones that I might create. To do that is, again, very simple, and it's how you would do it for other license types. Go to the admin section, click on the tenants tab. In here, you'll have a list of the tenants. You go ahead and enable your data service for it. In my example, this particular tenant, current test tenant, already has been enabled, already has data service enabled for it. So I'm just going to go ahead, change the number of DSUs allocated to it. To do that, I can simply hit the configure licenses button and go down to the data service section. You'll see that it has 0 DSUs allocated, but has 15 available. So let's change that and make that 10. And I'm going to keep 5 spare. So what I've done, I've just very easily been able to go ahead and allocate data service units to a tenant. And again, if I go back and look at my license allocation, I now see that 20 of my 25 data service units have been allocated. So that's all about licensing. To give us a peek into what we have planned, I'd hand it back to Ankit for the roadmap.
Thanks, Karan. As Karan covered licensing and choice sets, like that's it, our entire scope for GA, which we saw right now. All the activities, the security roles, the entity level permissions, Japanese language, and licensing. In terms of what's coming next, immediately in Q4 of this year, so over the next 2-3 months, first thing we are doing is we are making data service available in the North America region of our cloud as well. Today it's available in Europe, so it will be available in North America as well. That's a property available for our enterprise customers where they can have their tenant created in a particular region. So we'll support North America. Second thing we're investing in is supporting auto failover within our cloud system. So let's currently, for example, we are hosted in West Europe. And if West Europe goes down for Azure for some reason, we will automatically fail over to North Europe instance of Azure, and customers should have a minimal downtime. This is to support the promise which Ted and Param have talked about, that one of our main focuses in next year is to increase the reliability of our services significantly in cloud. We will have the UX supported in German and French as well. Column level permissions will be available, and we'll have bulk update, insert, and upsert support both in inside of API and our activities. Beyond that, the big things are we will have integration with apps available in the first quarter. We'll have open API and Swagger support available, and record level permissions available in the first quarter. And beyond the first quarter or the 21.4 release, there are a bunch of items around audit history, virtual entities, additional field types, unique constraint on-prem, which is all in the scope for 21 right now. We will reprioritize those items based on customer feedback and usage. Karan, can you move to the last slide? I just want to flash the last slide, which is if you need any help, we have the forums externally. We have internally the help entities channel. Sorry, it's called help data service channel now, but you can use either of the names, and Slack will find it for you. Both these locations are available for any questions and engaging with the team.